Hello, welcome to Take 10 with the Tennessee Tribune. I'm Sandra Longweaver. I'm the editorial director for the Tribune, and our guest today is the Reverend Dr. Emilie Towns, who is the director or dean of religious studies at Vanderbilt University. Welcome. And
Well,
I didn't quite get it right.
No, I'll help you with that because it gets confusing.
Okay.
I'm the dean of Vanderbilt Divinity School.
Divinity School.
Yes, we do have a religious studies department, but I let somebody else handle that one.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I wanted to have you here today because you've recently been appointed for another 5 years. You've
Yes,
been at
ma'am.
Vanderbilt running the Divinity School for 5 years, and now you have a new 5-year appointment.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I wanted to talk with you just a little bit about what that first 5 years has been like.
Well, the first 5 years is first and foremost getting to know the school. Not only the Divinity School, but the university it sits in. And that's always a many splendored thing and a challenge because universities have their own distinctive markers, and I had to figure out and learn Vanderbilt's and then also understand how the Divinity School and its distinctives sit within that larger universe. So I spent the first year and a half really trying to understand where I was, who I was working with, and to explore the possibilities. I'm a firm believer in you go into a new situation listening, not telling.
Okay.
Because folks may have already had the ideas you've had, and so you're not exactly the hottest thing that walked onto the campus. So I really want to become a part of the community while I'm well aware that I'm responsible and must be responsive to the community itself. So that was the beginning, and then...
and so let me say, so in that beginning, so what did you learn about the community? You came to Vanderbilt from Yale's Divinity School, so from the north to the south, making that transition. So how was that different?
Well, coming to Vanderbilt was coming back home. I was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay.
I never thought I would find a school that would be anywhere close to my own theology, which tends to the liberal progressive side. Not in the South, but I didn't know about Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt School has long had a reputation for being more on the liberal to the progressive edge easily since the 1920s.
That early?
That early. Some of our professors and students were involved in the early labor movement of that time in the South, which was not a popular thing to be a part of.
No.
And that has just moved forward through the years with a concern for race and racism as it unfolds into the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and on.
And today.
Yeah, and
Yes.
today. And so finding a school that met me so well theologically, as well as an understanding that social issues are also theological issues. They are deeply spiritual issues, and we make a mistake when we try to separate them from what's going on in God's creation. They are a part of God's creation. Therefore, we as people of faith need to be involved in them. So it was a happy thing for me to be able to come back home after 40 years or so and find myself in a school, both the Divinity School itself, but also a university that was just on the edge of breaking loose around issues of diversity. The university's now done that under the leadership of Chancellor Nick Zeppos, and he's serious about it. Our provost, Susan Wente, is also very serious about it. And so I'm not doing this work alone.
Right. So
as a dean.
The support and
I do, and I have 9 other colleagues who are deans who are also invested in that for their own individual schools. And so I don't feel as though I'm the Lone Ranger or the voice in the wilderness as much.
But in some senses, you are a lone ranger
Mhm.
when we look at university settings across the country, and there are not very many women or African Americans who head a divinity school. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, there's one other person I can think of, and that's Reverend Dr. Yolanda. I'm blanking on her name. That's so bad. But she is at Howard Divinity School.
Howard University in
Yes.
Washington, D.C.
Yes, and she is the dean there. She just began her tenure a little over a year ago now. And she and I are the only ones.
So do you talk much, exchange ideas, or
Um,
know of each other?
We know each other, and we occasionally write to each other, how you doing? Anything you need, let me know.
Okay.
Listening ear sort of thing. Um, and there's a mutual respect.
Okay.
We have checked in and done the woo girl sort of thing. But it's very collegial, which is lovely. There is no sense of I've got to be the best or the first or the only or whatever. However, there are a number of black divinity schools and seminaries.
Not necessarily based on in a university,
No,
but separately.
yeah, they're independent or as we call private institutions. And I just thought of a third dean now, Corey D.B. Baker at Virginia Union,
Oh.
who is just finishing his first year.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Not Baker, Walker.
Walker.
Yeah, Corey
So
Walker.
Corey Walker.
Yeah, so he's at Virginia Union. So we are the three. Two of them are
But
in
you're
historic.
the pioneer, it sounds like.
Well, I was the first. I don't know. I try to stay away from terms like pioneer because people try to pick folk off who were pioneers. I'm just one of the strugglers along with everybody else. But I was the first. And it actually never occurred to me till somebody brought it up about 6 months into my deanship in my first term. I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. Now we got some work to do. So let's
get it on.
Let's get back to work because that's the job.
Okay.
And that's the call and that's the ministry.
Okay. And so your first 5 years is now behind you. And obviously, you've done well, you're happy with that, and now you're about to begin a second 5-year term. So what is your thinking? Did the Divinity School grow in your first 5 years? Are you hoping for more growth, or where do you see it going?
Yeah.
Or what do you hope to do?
Well, we began some major projects, 2 of which are still ongoing, which is part of the reason why I decided the first 5 years was not enough. I want to see those things to completion. We are about, I think, midway through a major renovation of the school, the building. We're renovating both internally and also adding a new wing.
Oh, really?
To the school. So we are, as they say in the neighborhood, all tore up. We're right in the midst of asbestos abatement as we sit here.
Oh, wow.
So the building is pretty much uninhabited right now for the summer, except for a few hardy souls who are working in their offices outside of the abatement
Oh,
zone.
I was about to say.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Great.
Well, no, they're outside of the abatement zone. And so doing that, and part of the reason why we started the renovation process, which took about 4 years before we actually broke ground, was the building was built in 1960. It was showing it. It had one renovation that was not as extensive as this one. to get us through about 10 years' time, but it became very apparent that if we didn't do something major, the options for the university were either going to be to tear it down or tear it down.
Okay. No choice.
No choice. There's no sprinkler system. The HVAC system is as old as the building itself,
Okay.
as are the pipes. So a lot needs to happen. But more importantly, when we started to talk about it and talking to our various communities, the students, the faculty, the alums, our board of visitors, other folks across the Vanderbilt University community, we began to realize that the building didn't represent our understanding of ministry or
Oh, really?
theology. It was not the inviting space we want to be. It was dark. There wasn't a lot of light. It did not evoke the spiritual as much as we felt we needed to, and what we say we believe in wasn't being lived out in the building. So we undertook it also as a theological or spiritual statement
I see. Okay.
for what one learns in the environment you're in. And when the environment is saying one thing and you're hearing students and teachers say another thing, that causes a little confusion.
Right.
So we wanted to lessen the gap.
And to align everything. So, okay.
Yeah. So we may be different in deciding, no, it's not just that we need different kinds of classroom and different kinds of technology, or in some cases, technology.
Which is important today.
It is, it is. But it is also because it wasn't reflecting our theology
I see.
as a school. So that is underway. We hope that everything will be wrapped up by March of 2019.
Oh, I see. So you still may not be back in it in the fall.
We hope to be back in part of it in the fall.
Okay.
We have a two-step plan right now that part of the building will be available in early August, and then another part, and the extension part, will be open in late November, and then everything wrapped up in
the
March.
Spring semester. Of next year.
That is our hope.
Okay.
And I believe in hope, so I'm going to rest on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what other projects? You mentioned there were a couple.
We also undertook a major curriculum revision. And for anybody who has been around education, higher education, one of the words that, or the phrases that shakes a faculty soul is curriculum revision. But our curriculum was dated. The last real look at the curriculum was done in about 1985. So it was time. And I said to the faculty, this is not so much a revision as a transformation. I want us to think as much as we can outside of the box. So that goes into effect this fall.
Oh, really? So how has it, what's transformational about it?
Well, some of the big features. We have a decrease in degree hours. For the Master of Divinity, it goes from 84 to 72.
Really?
For the Master of Theological Studies, it goes from 51 to 48.
Okay.
We now have 10 different concentrations that students must declare a concentration. They can move between the 10 if they wish, and they can do more than one concentration.
Oh, really?
But we try to develop concentrations that, one, reflect the student interests we see. So some of our students, a good number of our students, have wanted to be very specific in looking at spirituality and social activism. So that's one of the concentrations.
So that's relatively new.
All of this is new.
All of it's new.
The whole thing goes into effect on August 23rd.
Okay.
And we will see what we will see.
Okay.
with it. But we have the more traditional one, prophetic and pastoral ministry, which is the sort of the standard bearer, as well as chaplaincy. But we also have concentrations in Black religion and culture,
Oh, really?
religion, gender, and sexuality, prison and carceral studies. The list goes on.
Okay.
So it adds up to 10.
Okay, I see.
One of the things that I do as part of my job as dean is I read a good number of the student applications for the incoming class. And I have been heartened to see a spread through the 10 concentrations, with spirituality and social activism leading the pack,
I was wondering.
which didn't
Okay.
surprise me, given the times of the issues of our times these days. But it is a sign that we might be on the right road.
With the interest from the students.
Yes, trying to respond to what we're seeing in the local churches, in our community, in the nation, and the skill set of the faculty we have right now.
Okay.
So it became a very interesting, this is now, we launch in our 3rd year of this journey.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, sounds like it's a very exciting time.
It is.
And so how does all of this, as Dean of the Divinity School, how does your work tie in with the local Nashville area community?
I try to be out in the community as much as I can. And not just to raise money, which is my job, and I do it gladly and freely.
Okay.
But for me, one shouldn't come to the local community with a handout unless one has something to offer.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to open up the Divinity School and the gifts and skills and space we have there for the community to use in ways that the community feels needs to happen.
Oh, really? Okay.
So part of the expansion for us in the building renovation is we're building a space that is both for a chapel but also multi-purpose for meetings. And that's where we will invite folks in, use the space, leave it well, but do it.
Right.
We'll be in conversation with you as you do this. But I think that one of the challenges I have always seen in all of the schools I've been on the faculty for is finding ways to really let the community know you're welcome.
Which is important.
And I think it's very important. It's where our students are going out to do field education, be it in local churches or community agencies or denominational agencies and all the other things they're up to.
Right.
But we should not be that school on a hill. We're that school on the hill physically,
Right.
but spiritually and communally, I don't want us to be that place.
Right.
I want us to be open and welcoming. And the only way I can convince people of that is to go out in the community and say so.
Right.
And then demonstrate it.
Right. And so inviting people in, but also connecting with them as you go out as well.
That's very, very important. I grew up in a little United Methodist Mission Church in Durham, North Carolina. And the pastor that had the most influence on me was the one that I first remembered as a little girl, Reverend Doug Moore. And Reverend Moore taught us that you can be out in the streets protesting, which he was, because this was the 60s.
Okay, yes.
But you also have to have a spiritual base. You also have to be right with God. So I grew up with this combination of prophetic witness and pastoral heart. And that's what I try to lead us toward as a school.
It sounds like you've been successful.
Well, I'm on the way.
Okay,
I'm on the way. I'm
It's
on the
still
way.
a journey.
It's still a journey.
Okay.
It's still a journey.
All right.
Yeah, but it's and it's a challenge because sometimes folks think that if you are in a university setting, you're only thinking with your head. And for us, we also want to be clear we're thinking and feeling with our heart.
With our hearts.
Yeah.
The spiritual aspect is there.
Very much so.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Towns.
You're welcome.
We've been speaking with Reverend Dr. Emilie Towns, Dean of the Divinity School at Vanderbilt University. And we hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you the next time.